5 times award-winning screenwrter. What's an Emmy winner? All right, I'm not high, I promise. All right,
No,
we're
you're
gonna
good.
start
You're
this
good.
over. Maybe we'll put these bloopers on, right? This is El Man. You're listening to It Came from the Radio. I'm here with Samuel Ashkenazy, a 5 times award-winning screenwriter. Hello, and thank you for being here after all the technical difficulties. What?
No, thank you for having me. It's funny, we met at my job, and I think you were getting audio equipment for this. So,
Yep.
like, I hope it's not the audio equipment that you bought
No,
that day.
no, it was a new phone, which we almost used. But all right, so I did a little research. You wrote a novel in second grade. You wrote a book in second
Yeah.
grade, and you've gotten at least 5 awards for different screenplays. And
So,
you're younger than me. I'm 38. You've got to be younger than me. So how did you learn to write screenplays? How did you learn to write books? Like for anyone listening, how can they start writing and winning awards?
okay, so two different things there. All right,
Mhm.
so for me, the writing was kind of natural. I was kind of living in a house that I couldn't really have friends over, you
Okay.
know,
Why?
and it was just tough times growing up,
Okay.
and
Okay.
it wasn't conducive to like bring people over.
Okay.
And I didn't really have any video games, and I couldn't really watch a ton of TV. But both my parents, are relatively creative people. And they were, generally they do music, they draw, they were always into creative things. And the one thing that I did always have access to is basically like Word 2007,
Okay.
so I just kind of like started typing one day. I stole
Word.
the laptop and I just, I was just writing away. And like
You say you stole a laptop?
it was from my dad,
Oh,
like
wow.
I stole it
I
from him
was
and I
like,
was
okay, that's an interesting story, maybe.
just gangster as a
Steal
sentence, I
laptops and use it to win awards. Steal.
but yeah, so I just kind of started writing, and then like I think it was like second grade. I had kind of written a novel. It was like 150 pages, and like I wouldn't say it was anything to like bark at. I
Right?
mean, it wasn't like literary genius, but I mean for a second grader writing 150 pages, that is kind of like crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I know 50-year-olds that can't write one page. So,
it's writing's a skill. It's everybody has their own skill. Um,
so does that
but
give you the confidence in second grade? You're like, oh, maybe I'm a good writer. Did that like make you think, oh, maybe I should stick with this? Or were you like, no, I suck. I still
I
suck.
definitely thought I should stick with it.
Okay. Okay.
I definitely thought I should stick with it. I didn't think that I was anything great, but I knew that I enjoyed doing it.
Hmm.
It helped me like make sense of things, you know. So I kept writing, and like third, fourth, fifth grade, I'm writing like these big kind of manuscripts, and they don't have like a ton of structure. Like they kind of start out as novels, and then they kind of like get very dialogue heavy, and then they like kind of segue back into novels. And like
Okay.
eventually my family kind of started taking notice and was like, the dialogue in these is pretty good. Did you ever think about writing plays or movies?
Mm,
And that's when it kind of like started to click.
right.
And I started like paying attention to TV a little bit more. I started paying attention to movies a little bit more, and when I'd catch them on. And then my dad was starting a business, and he did this commercial, and the guys came into the house with big cameras and they were shooting this commercial, and
Wow.
I was like, this is awesome, and I must
Oh,
have been like
okay.
10.
What kind of
you
business
know
was it?
he was doing like a computer repair
I was
business.
like, don't tell me your dad's Tom Carvel. I always wanted to meet him. The Tom Carvel commercials with the sugar boys. Guess
or
your
the
dad a fudge of the well.
or the Cambridge paving stone guy.
I was
uh,
like, wow.
but no, so we did that commercial, and like I was immediately like kind of like hooked. And a few years later, I reached out to the people that did my dad's commercial and was like, could I PA?
Right.
Could I do production assistance for you guys? And they had a studio in Deer Park. So like eventually, like I just started going on shoots with them and kind of learning like the behind the scenes
Could you say the
lingo.
name of them or no?
Yeah, I mean the place was JHD Productions. The guy
Okay.
that gave me the opportunity there was Hugh C. Daly. He actually just recently passed away.
Oh, wow.
But he was a great guy. He did a lot of great work.
Wow. And what did
Um,
you learn as a PA from that? What I mean, I'm sure everything. I've been a PA, but what are like
yeah,
maybe top 5 things you learned like the first month?
I mean, I don't know. It was weird. I'll say like there was a couple shoots where we went away, which was pretty cool. I was like
Okay.
14, 15 years old at that point. I was young. I was getting
Right.
on
Yeah,
sets and I
that's
was
very
really
young to
young.
get on set. That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, I just kind of learned, like how everybody just fills a role on a set, and
Mhm.
that's like, where they belong.
Right.
And that job is important. I've seen jobs where it's like people think production assistants is so wishy-washy sometimes, but I've
It
seen
can be, and sometimes it's not.
whole
Yeah.
sets really rely on their PAs.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like it kind of depends on the production that you're in, and it really teaches you how really valuable everybody is
Mm-hmm.
in their roles.
Mm-hmm.
All those roles are necessary. you
Actually,
know
I have a question for aspiring film.
yeah,
So I'm surrounded by creatives and a
yeah,
lot of comedians, they want to make a movie, and then a lot of actors and models want to make movies, and then people want to make movies, they want to do stand up, whatever. So I
yeah.
hear about, I don't know, at least once a week, I want to make a film, I want to make a film. And many of these people, they've never been on too many sets. And I feel like, I don't know, at least for me, if I was going to make a movie, which I've never officially made a short myself, all by myself with my own team with no help. I've never done that yet. I feel
Right.
like I would make it mandatory for someone to be a assistant director or a PA, a production
Sure.
assistant. I feel like how can you make your own film if you've never played those roles? Do you think it's crazy to make your own film without ever being an assistant
Oh yeah.
director, production assistant? It's crazy, right?
Oh yeah. You
Okay.
need set experience. You absolutely need set experience. It just the little things that you learn on set, you know, make a shoot that much quicker when you know it on the next one.
Right.
And all those little things add up to big things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you also like eventually, if this is something that you want to pursue, you're going to be in those roles that you're watching,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as a PA. So it's beneficial, to at least, pick up a couple notes, here and there,
Right.
and just be like, okay, this is what this guy did. Did it work? Did it not work? This woman over here, she did
Yes.
this thing. How did that work out for us as a production? And it's like, I feel like, as a PA, you kind of have this real opportunity to kind of silently learn and pick up like all the cues
Mm-hmm.
without really even being like taught directly.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And I guess follow-up question, which is I feel like I'm
Yeah.
going to know your answer. I also have different friends and colleagues that want to make feature films without
Mhm.
ever having made a short film. Do you think that's, I feel like you should make it, I don't know what, at least a few shorts before doing a feature, or can you just jump into a feature according to you?
Okay. So, I mean, hypothetically speaking, do these people have the budget? You know,
Um,
if money
let's say
isn't an
no.
issue,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's
if
say
money
no.
isn't an issue, and you
Right.
have the budget, you have investors that are sitting there at the
Right.
wings and they're like, we're going to, invest in your project, on a first timer, yeah, you could probably get away with it. Will it
Okay.
be at the same quality as it would have been if you had directing experience before that? Probably not,
Okay.
you know.
Okay. Had to ask.
But if money is an issue, then you definitely need short films under your belt
Okay.
because if you are on a set with a budget, you need to know how to effectively spend that budget.
True.
And if you're doing a full feature length film, that's going to eat up money fast.
Yeah,
it
it
eats, it
does.
eats up money so fast,
So speaking
so
of films, I want to
yeah.
go back to you rather than general questions.
Sure.
Your film Fear, which I tried to order, but I only watched the trailer.
Okay.
Yeah, but I am going to order it. It's only two
No, you're
dollars
good.
on your website. I mean, like everyone can afford that. So it's about two club goers that return home to try a new street drug with horrifying consequences. I
Yes.
have tried different drugs and supplements and legal drugs that have horrifying consequences. Tell me a horrifying drug story that maybe is related or unrelated to the film. Because you know what, for anyone listening, it's very helpful to hear other people's horrifying drug stories because chances are you're not going to uh, exercise abstinence, and you might try something, even Tylenol. I have horror stories with Tylenol. That's one of my worst ones ever. So yeah.
I mean, honestly, drugs are a focus in a lot of my writing.
Okay.
Drugs have affected me, my friends, my family in all different ways.
Hmm.
I could tell you like, funny horror stories and like actual horror stories,
Either one. Either one.
but
Whatever
I
people
mean,
can learn from, I feel like is great.
learn from is good.
Yeah.
Going back to Fear and Passion Fruit, I mean, both films, although, distinctly different,
Hmm.
um, both stories are very avoid it if you can.
Okay.
you know Not to say that I'm like totally anti-drug, I'm not, but I've certainly seen enough people really lose control, and really, kind of spiral out to some devastating effects sometimes.
What kind
you
of
know
drugs? Alcohol, cocaine, meth, pot,
so
all of the above.
I'll give you a crazy story. I won't name the person, but
Sure.
I am going to share this tale because it's probably one of the crazier ones that I've ever experienced.
Okay.
Right. So I had a close friend, and she was seeing somebody at the time who had a lot of access to various drugs. He just kind of sold and dealt just to kind
Mhm.
of make his drug habit free. You
Gotcha.
know, and their thing was that they had a lot of LSD.
Oh my God.
Yeah, a lot of LSD. Now, typically, like, you think of LSD as more of a party drug, right? That's not something that people get addicted to. That's not something that people like,
Right.
really kind of like spiral out of control into, like
Not
long-term.
usually.
Right.
No, no.
Well, um, they had so much abundance of it that they could really do it whenever they wanted. And they did it basically for like a month straight.
Oh my God. Okay.
And, she ends up really in a devastating mental condition, like to the point where, she was sharing stories like, I've watched people take my brain out of my head.
Oh my
And
God.
like she believed that,
Believed it.
like really believed it. Like
Wow.
she saw it,
Whoa.
So how do you tell her that that didn't happen? She saw it,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
she's not fully aware that she's like tripping. I mean, at one point, like she went to the hospital and she tripped for like 96 hours.
Oh my God.
And it's like, think of how much that affects a person. I mean, being stuck in that status for such a long period of
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
And it really was a wake-up call that like these things are just not as safe, as you think they are.
Hmm.
First off, you just don't know what you're really getting most of the time.
No.
And as much as it's, a blast, which, it definitely can be, you
Hmm.
know, it, to see that is also just, a real-time lesson of like, if you keep doing this,
Hmm.
moderation is key.
Right.
Right.
And moderation sometimes kills people, or that
Right. Well,
alone.
the
I
lack of
have one drink
moderation,
a week.
certainly.
I get my
Yeah.
immune systems killed. That's just, I have a weird
Yeah.
body. I can't even do a drink a week. It sucks.
I am not a
So
drinker.
I
I
can't. I
am not
wish
a
I could.
drinker. In like 10th grade, I like me and another friend, we had this brilliant idea. We were like, we can't get hungover, like we're just gonna drink.
Okay.
And we were wrong.
Well, at least you found out in 10th grade and not older, you know?
Well, it's funny. It was a great lesson to learn at that time
Learn it
because it
young.
kept me out of a lot of trouble for the next 2 years
Exactly.
in high school. I
Yeah.
didn't drink a lot,
Yeah.
really, if ever, honestly, after that
Well,
point for
that's
a long
great.
time.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was like I didn't drink, I think, until like I was 21 after that, and it was like I couldn't even smell it. I couldn't go near it. It was just like I'd immediately get sick
There's
from
more
it.
fun
So,
ways to have fun.
yeah, right.
And you
Like,
can lose your inhibitions by being on set. I feel like that helped me. I mean, I used to
oh
be really
yeah,
shy. You be on set. If you go to enough sets and do enough stand up,
oh yeah.
eventually you're going to feel free saying almost anything to anyone.
Stand up was great. I did stand up. I was doing stand up like right before the pandemic. I had
Awesome.
met a friend in college who loved doing stand up, and
Okay.
he told me like, you have a great like stage personality. Like you should try coming with me sometime. And I did. And you know I kept doing like all these really small clubs, so you
Mhm.
get like 5, 6 people in the room,
Mhm.
and it's those really
Sometimes that's fun
awkward
though,
small
because when
clubs.
it's that few, you can say almost anything, which I like. So
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
upside to that.
absolutely. I mean, they were always like, they were always a group that pushed the envelope,
Okay.
so you'd always be able to like say some like really, um on the edge, on the line things, and you could see how it plays. I mean, they were people that could definitely take it, and it was a great time. I miss doing that, but ever since the pandemic, they've shut down so many of the open mics. They're only just starting to come back now.
Well, actually, if we knew each other, there was a lot of underground open mics, and they were occurring all through the pandemic, masked and unmasked. But actually, that's when I got into stand up more, and that was
Really?
great because it was like, yeah, it was great. I mean, the first show I think I did was Governors, and it was a Zoom
Yeah.
show, so it's like there's not even anyone in the room. So if I fail, it's like, okay, it's cool. It's a Governors because people seem to think that's cool, but also no one's really there, so no one's gonna throw tomatoes at me. But my
Sure.
last question before, because this is a short and sweet radio interview,
Sure.
filmmakers. So there's Todd, the horror nerd. He made a post recently, not saying that all film festivals are scams, but showing that, it was a very long paragraph. And my takeaway is pretty much my thoughts on film festivals, that a lot of young filmmakers, they go to film festivals thinking they're going to get agents or investors or notoriety, and the world's going to open for them. But my opinion, I have a more negative opinion on most institutions, and I've hosted a film festival. Love to go to them, love to watch the movies, love to meet the actors and interview all them. But I feel like it's, if I had to guess, it would probably be like 3 to 15% of filmmakers that actually go. And 15% would be high, probably more like 3% actually
Hmm.
get investors. So I just was curious your opinions on the benefits of going to film festivals, and also maybe how film festivals can be scammed, or maybe how you've been scammed or thought they were more important than they should be.
Well, okay. This is all stuff that I'm kind of learning along the way as well,
Mhm.
right? So I mean, I've definitely seen festivals where I'm looking at them and there just doesn't seem to be a lot of credibility there,
Okay.
right? But also at the same time, right? Like as an up and comer, anything that I can get an accolade for,
Mm-hmm.
is something that I could put on a resume,
True.
right? So you kind of have to like weigh these decisions sometimes, like the first award that I won in this cycle for passion fruit, which, segueing to passion fruit right now, during the pandemic, I had written this script called Passion Fruit, which is basically what's being promoted right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had kind of pumped this thing out in like almost one sitting. I mean, I locked myself in my room done one day and just like pumped out like 60 pages.
Right. I was
And I
wondering how
was
long that
just,
took.
yeah, it was just, there was a whole lead up to that. I had written a show during the pandemic and I was like certain I could get it sold. And I
Uh,
called a production company that I know would want it. And they answered and they had me on the phone for like 3 weeks, kind
okay.
of leading me on to believe that they might, pick this pitch up, only to like eventually come back. And it turns out that I've been talking to this intern the entire time.
Uh, you didn't know
And
it was nobody that had could help you?
he was, he was an intern to somebody rather large, and I'm
Okay.
not gonna say who, but I
All
mean like
right.
he was somebody that was, an intern to somebody really well connected, and
Okay.
he was like, it's
Okay.
on his desk, it's on his desk, it's on his desk, and then he
Oh,
eventually picked up the phone and was like, I'm so sorry, like I didn't realize there was a rule that I couldn't, give him a pitch, and I'm so sorry, but like I had to delete it,
oh
and
my God. Yeah.
I was devastated because I had been like certain that this was going to happen. And I locked myself in my room and just wrote this script. And this script, something felt good about it, like right from the start. The fact that just so much of it came out all at once. It was just kind of, the universe like telling me like this is
Yeah.
what you need to lead with right now.
Right.
So starting in January, I had gotten it copyrighted by that point. The first festival of the year was this thing called Airflix. You know, definitely not a super legitimate festival. I mean, it's only been around a year.
Okay.
You know, they've only given out like a handful of awards, but you know, they were looking for submissions and it was relatively inexpensive. And I was like, all right, you know, let me submit it. And it just so happens that the awards date was my birthday.
Oh, interesting.
And I submit with it like, hey, like, you know, the
It's my
awards is
birthday, pick
also my
me.
birthday. Like, it would be the best birthday gift ever if you awarded me like best, you know,
Oh my
unproduced script
God.
here. And they did, you know, and all
Nice.
was just kind of like, oh, this makes sense. You know,
Right,
this is
right,
exactly where I'm supposed to be. And like, sure, you know, is that like a huge name festival? Yet, no.
right.
But you know, who knows? You know, when you have festivals like this, the point is that they find the up and comers, and that's how they get their recognition. So
Mhm.
maybe you're just one of the up and comers. You know,
How old are you?
23.
You're 20. Yeah, you're 23. This is, I mean, I don't know. I'm 38. I feel like I talk to people in their 50s and 60s, and some of them are not even where you're at right now. So to me, here's my little intuition or big intuition. Um, all these festivals and some most of them or any award or even relationship, you can say it might not really mean much, but it's guiding you to where you want and need to be.
Yeah.
So for me, I've worked with so many different producers or actors or agencies, whatever. And it's not that each one had so much importance, but they showed me what to do and what not to do and what's important, and then what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. So that's what I would take away from this. So we'll close on this.
Sure.
I'd like to continue this, but final thoughts for where can we find you, social media, and your final thought for this very short interview. And where can we
Yes.
find you, socials?
Okay, so socials, you could find everything Scareworks. I'm Scareworks everywhere. On Scareworks Films on Twitter. I'm Scareworks on Instagram. You could find my portfolio, scareworks.net. We are having a campaign right now. If this airs before October 8th, please find us on Indiegogo.com. It's under Passion Fruit Nick's story. We are shooting a prequel to that screenplay, trying to get investors for the larger script. But this is going to be like a short, almost episode featuring one of the characters.
Okay.
We do have a couple of announcements, actually. Joining our cast is Lee Simmons, really awesome actor, local independent actor. He's been such things as like Scorned, Love Kills, and Usual Suspects. We also have a new perk available on our campaign. On Indiegogo, you get all these perks. Depending on how much money you donate, you get something back. We have a new perk as of tonight called Hallucinate. The Hallucinate perk gets you a blooper reel and audio commentary, as well as a digital copy when you get the film. So hopefully we'll see some donations. We are looking for a little bit more. We've already raised over $3,000, which is incredible.
That is a lot.
Yeah, you know,
For those Kickstarters, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's how you get it off the ground these days. You know, I see a lot of people having success with that. So hopefully we could just get this thing, you know, off the ground and moving. And so far, really, the footage is coming out very nice.
Or you could do what some people do is they basically just sell the roles. Like, oh, you want to be in the movie? Pay $400 and you can be like the doctor. I mean, that is a business model I've seen. It's, we're not going to see it all over the place, but it's an idea. I'm not suggesting it, but it's like, hey, because, usually the old model was you want to hire me as an actor, you got to pay me, right? But it's like, how about you have the actors pay you? You make $400 to $1,000 an actor. Now you have 10 actors paying $1,000. You have $10,000, and the actors are paying you to produce a movie about them. How about that for genius?
I've been seeing stuff like that, and it's crazy, like, how the film industry adapts. This is like a constantly adapting industry, and people just find work in all these new ways now, and I think that's like the one benefit out of like all the social media of it. Is like there's so much opportunity to create now. Even on this campaign, I had somebody reach out to me from Venice, Italy, and they're like, they were like, listen, like, I really want to score this campaign. Venice is in Italy, right? I'm not an idiot. Yeah, okay.
Well, it could be California.
No, it's definitely like California.
I've been to Venice. I actually didn't like it, but yeah.
This person like reached out from across the world, and they were like, I'd love to score your movie for you.
Wow.
And it's like, where did that come from?
Would you consider it? Would you want to work with someone that far away? Maybe.
Oh,
maybe.
absolutely.
Huh.
I mean, like, you know, they're an artist too. They're looking to do something that they care about, you know, and if that's something that they're
Just know
interested
if they
in,
mess up, you're gonna have to go all the way to Venice and dip their head in the water. And on
yeah,
that note, we're gonna wrap up because
that's
our
it.
next segment. So thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you,
Check him out, Scareworks.
thank you.
I think we'll see him in the next. This is my bet. We'll give you a little psychic reading. I'm a trained psychic. I think in the next 10 years and before that, within then, we're going to be seeing a lot more and we're going to seeing him advance. So let's see. I hope I'm right. And I
I hope
don't know,
so
I'm a
too.
little bit of a talent agent. I've picked people out and then like 10 years later, I'm like, oh, I knew that 10 years ago. But you know, everyone knows everything in hindsight. So on that note, back to more. It came from the radio.